Hello, my name is Ian. Today, my group will discuss how ride-hailing services have impacted Malaysia's economy over the past decade. I'll be covering the introduction and infrastructure of Malaysia's e-hailing services. Firstly, ride-hailing is a service to book public transport through apps like Grab, which connects passengers and drivers in real time using search pricing. Malaysia's ride-hailing industry is identified to be an oligopoly, where only a few large firms dominate the market. Although there are 32 registered ride-hailing apps under APAD, Grab remains the market leader, controlling most of the market shares. The industry faces high entry barriers, making it difficult for new competitors to enter the market. Drivers must obtain a PSV license, undergo training and checks, and have insurance coverage. Vehicles need an approved permit from APAD and pass inspection requirements before operating. Oligopoly firms compete through service differentiation and technology. For example, Grab has evolved into a super app offering different services and real-time updates based on traffic and weather. In an oligopoly, firms are mutually interdependent as they react to each other's decisions. This is seen when MyCC fined Grab around RM 86 million for abusing its dominance in the market. Lastly, for consumers, oligopoly brings both benefits and disadvantages. While services are more reliable and innovative, since there are a few dominant firms, choices are limited and price can increase during peak hours due to surge pricing. That's all from me. I'll now pass it to Ashaya.
Thank you, Lian. Now, continuing, I'll be talking about how the introduction of e hailing in Malaysia affected the supply and demand of the market. Thank you, Lian. After e hailing was first introduced in Malaysia in 2012 with MyTaxi, the demand for traditional taxis decreased. Shifting consumer preference, e hailing apps offered convenience and reliability, allowing users to book rides anytime, track drivers, and know the fare upfront. These features made consumers prefer e hailing over traditional taxis, shifting the demand curve for taxis leftward. After e-hailing was first introduced in Malaysia in 2012, at the same time, the demand for private ride services, taxis plus e-hailing combined, shifted rightwards. Lower search and waiting costs, app reduced transaction costs, more affordability, competitive pricing, discounts and promotions, and safer and more comfortable rides, driver ratings, and app records. At the same time, the demand for private ride services, taxis plus e-hailing combined, going to supply, there were lower barriers to entry. Anyone with a valid driving license and car could register as an e-hailing driver. No need for expensive taxi permits or fleet ownership. Increased number of drivers, the supplies rised. Flexible labor supply, many part-time drivers joined, which included students, retirees, workers during off hours. When fares rise, surge pricing or festive seasons, more drivers came online. Supply became more elastic, responsive to price changes. Going to supply, there was also technological efficiency. The e-hailing app efficiently matches riders and drivers using GPS and algorithms. This reduces idle time and increases the number of rides per driver per day. Lower average cost per ride, supply curve shifts to the right. Reduce operational costs for platforms, no need for centralized taxi depots or phone operators. Driver could use their own vehicles and bear the costs for themselves, and platform costs were reduced, thus the market entry was easier, and thus there was a greater supply.
And now, I will continue to share with the subtopic of consumer surplus or consumer welfare. According to Decors and Chorus, consumer surplus refer to the difference between what customer actually pays and what they will be willing to pay for goods. There are many benefits from e-hailing. First, it is cheaper. Fares are usually lower because of GPS-based pricing and cashless system. This makes it harder for dishonest companies to overcharge. Second, it is convenient. Since consumer can book in second and wait less. Third, it makes things safer. Drivers are qualified, rides can be traced in real time, and there's a two-way rating system. Not just about that, e-hailing also increases accessibility, especially for individuals who live in the suburbans or cities. You can now obtain a car 24/7 where you want it. And these improvements has clearly increased consumer surplus since riders now pay less than they are prepared to pay. Despite these benefits, there are still challenges that limit consumer welfare. Such pricing is a major issue since it makes fares much more expensive at busy time, making them less affordable. Besides that, the market became more consolidated after the Uber-Grab merger in 2018, which caused fares to go up by 10 to 15% and less discount. Continue with challenges. The reduce in competition could also slow innovations and reduce service quality. Moreover, customers in cities still get greater benefits than those in rural areas, which make those services unequal.
I'm Valerie, and I will be explaining how producer welfare has changed due to ride hailing. Producer welfare is the economic well being of those supplying a good or service. This is typically measured by producer surplus, which is revenue minus minimum acceptable payment. So, who are the producers in ride hailing? We have the drivers as well as the platforms. So, to start off, the benefits one of the benefits is now there are more income opportunities. So, ride hailing allows even more people to earn an income. The second is ease of entry. So, it's actually lower barriers, it's less difficult to do ride hailing compared to taxis. So, this actually encourages people to work more. Another benefit is now drivers have control over work hours and intensity, so they can choose how long or how intensely they want to work. There's also the increased market power, so since there are more drivers and more riders now, the platforms have all become more valuable. However, there are also challenges that arise with ride hailing. The first one is lack of job security, so unlike full time employees, they don't get benefits. There's also oversaturation in the ride hailing market because there are more and more platforms being introduced. And as well as rising operational costs, with the rising of all the fuel costs and maintenance, it's actually very hard to turn a decent profit. Here is our graph for consumer versus producer surplus. So, seeing this, how has the overall market efficiency been affected? First off, there's improved resource allocation, so that makes it easier for riders to find a driver and drivers to find their own riders. Next, there's also the dynamic pricing, so the fare may increase or decrease at different times. There is also increased competition. So with more platforms being introduced, there's actually more competition. And there's also reduced transportation costs because with GPS route and digital payments, a lot of transactional costs are reduced. Overall, ride hailing has improved efficiency as well as resource allocation. However, it's not without its trade offs. So while it may be more efficient, it doesn't mean it's more equitable.
Hello, my name is Denise, and I'll be presenting how cost and profitability differ between traditional taxis and route hailing services like Grab, and how this shift has changed Malaysia's transport industry. So starting off, how much do drivers in traditional taxis industry earn? So before e-hailing appeared, most drivers were under traditional taxi companies. They paid daily or monthly rental fees for taxi permits and vehicles as most did not own the vehicle. They also faced high fixed costs such as license, fuel, and maintenance. So an average taxi driver income ranged between 2,000 ringgit and 3,000 ringgit per month, roughly 41,000 ringgit a year. This is excluding the fixed cost. So profits were small and income were dependent on location and luck due to limited rides and idle time, as there were no digital platforms to match drivers efficiently with passengers. Moving on to the platform profitability in the ride-hailing industry. In the early years, ride-hailing had low profitability due to high startup and technology costs for marketing, platform development, and other driver incentives. But over time, as the user base grew through incentives and discounts, this helped generate more profit. Grab also expanded its services into GrabFood, GrabPay, and GrabMart. This diversification, along with economies of scale, helped improve profitability and reduce overall operating costs as there were multiple revenue streams. Now, comparing the average revenue between traditional taxi drivers and drivers in the ride-hailing industry, most ride-hailing drivers today earn between 2,000 and 5,000 ringgit per month, or around 59,000 a year, including tips. On average, their revenue is slightly higher than that of a traditional taxi driver, reflecting improved access to passengers and more consistent ride demands. So in summary, ride-hailing has now evolved greatly to Malaysia's transport industry. Due to the high platform profitability, such as Grab, it has contributed 9.9 billion ringgit to the Malaysian economy in 2023, about 0.5% to Malaysia's GDP. It has also created large-scale employment opportunities, supporting over 277,000 driver partners nationwide. Additionally, in total, driver partners contributed around 4.6 billion ringgit in value-added income, strengthening both individual livelihoods and the national economy. So overall, not only has ride-hailing increased efficiency and accessibility, it has also become economically significant contributors to Malaysia's GDP and employment. In conclusion, ride-hailing services have significantly transformed Malaysia's transport and economic landscape over the past decade. The industry's oligopolistic structure, led by Grab, has encouraged innovation and efficiency through technology and competition. Ride-hailing platforms have also improved market efficiency by reducing transaction costs, increasing supply flexibility, and enhancing consumer and producer welfare. Consumers benefit from greater convenience, affordability, and accessibility, while drivers gain new income opportunities and flexibility. Although challenges such as surge pricing, market dominance, and rising operational costs still remain, the overall impact have been generally positive. Ride-hailing has strengthened Malaysia's digital economy, created extensive employment opportunities, and contributed notably to national GDP growth.
These are all the references used for our presentation. Thank you.